I'm going to come to you with, I think is definitely going to be a quick video. Going to kill two birds with one stone here. I had a request for a dinner triangle to be made, and I've been wanting to make those for my shows coming up. So we're going to do that. I've made a couple of them today, and I think I've got my science where I want it to be. Plus, this should be a short video, and I've been asked for a nice short video. So here what we'll do, we'll start with half-inch square or half-inch round, and actually you can use anything I think you want. I think something with a little carbon in it, something that you can harden a little bit will give you a little better tone. But where am I? I can't show you. Start with 30 inches. And the first one that I did 10, 10. You know, the bends were the same, and it was a monotone. So what I do is I do a 9-inch mark and a 10-inch mark, and that leaves me 11 inches at the end. That gives me 3 different tones. So again, I just cut 30 inches of whatever material I'm going to use, and then, yeah, you can see it. So at my marks, I just go put a little bit of a punch mark there so I know where to bend it. And we'll go ahead and get this started. One other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to dress your ends up before you go ahead and bend it, just so you got something pretty on the end. And again, you can be as creative as you want with this, but in keeping the resonance of the I don't know what you call it, dinner triangle, dinner bell. I'm not going to do anything fancy on the ends yet. We're just going to make a simple triangle. A little bigger than I wish it were. I only want to heat a small part of this so that when I bend this around my form, you know, I'm not worried about bending out here. So you really want to keep where your heat is. You want to keep that centered on that mark. And I want to do my 9s before I do my 11s. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rake the coals away from the ends so that they're just centered on that mark, trying to get as narrow a heat as possible. That's the plan anyway. I have, looks like about 5/8 rod that I'm going to bend around. I like the radius that gives that inside corner. And I'm going to heat this thing up, hopefully to the point where I can go ahead and make my bend. I have a protractor over here, or a smart square over here, set at 60 degrees. That's what I want the bend to be. And then I'm going to try to quench it, because if there's any carbon in that steel at all, I'd like it to go ahead and pick up a little bit of hardening. I think the harder the metal, the more resonance you're going to get out of the bell. So that's the plan. Come over here, bend this to 60 degrees, and then quickly quench it. But I want to try to get it to the temperature where I can have a good hardening heat still left. I got the heat where I want it to be. Just going to brush that spot off so you can find that dot. Line that dot up on the center of my form and bring this thing around to 60 degrees. Of course, I moved my thing. And I'm going to go with that. Now it's good. I mean, it's simple. It's a nice, easy project. The better you are getting that angled, you won't have to go back and reheat that. Let me get the other side. Oh, punch it. I don't think it's going to do a whole hell of a lot with mild steel anyway, but if it does, if I can do it, might as well do it. Alright, let's get the other side. Alright, let's get the other side done. Again, brush it off so you can find your mark, and even then it's kind of hard to see sometimes, especially when you're Chandler and your eyes don't work like they used to. Lining up in the center. Now this one should be the 11, so we want it to go past this first one, and if you look, this angle's too steep, and I knew it was. It sucks. 60, 60, and 60 is 180, right? I don't know why that didn't work. I mean, that looks like a darn close to 60, and that doesn't. Is my math wrong? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and reheat. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and rebend this first one to get it lined up, and the more you make, I'm sure that the better you're going to be there. But you do want to get them lined up also in this direction, so when they come out, you want them to be in this direction lined up so that they look pretty. This one's off just a little bit right now, but we got to go back and heat it. Alright, let me reheat it and fix it, and I'll come back. So unfortunately it took me 2 extra heats to do that. Like I said, the more I do it, I think the better I'm going to be at it. Looks pretty darn good. You want some space between here, about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch is what I'm finding looks good. And with this, with 3 different links, you should get 3 different tones. Alright, and that's the plan. So while we still have a little bit of heat in this, I'm going to bring it up to warm enough. We'll wax this thing right now and move on to the striker. Alright, now we don't want to get that thing extremely hot, but hot enough for the wax to take effect. And this is my little waxing kit. I have a pair of gloves specifically for this. They get pretty darn stiff, but hopefully you can handle the material at that temperature. And often I get enough wax right on my glove, I can just run it around. But I take beeswax or blacksmith juice or whatever I'm in the mood to be dealing with. Right now I'm just using beeswax straight up. That's going to be just fine. And we'll get that coated. And you don't want it, well, I found that you don't want it so hot that it bursts into flames. Because then it takes a lot longer for that wax to cook in. And I usually have a cloth here that I can kind of clean this off with a little. But hot enough where that wax is going to season onto that thing, darken it up, protect it, coat it, etc. So if you're smoking like crazy, you're probably in good shape. So that's good. We got our waxed. We'll let that one cool while we work on that striker now. If you're not dark enough, if you're not hot enough, you won't cook in as much. So this one might be a little bit on the cool side, but we're going to let her rest anyway, and we'll see how it goes. All right, onto that striker. All right, the cool thing about this project is you can almost use any material that you want. You can experiment with different sizes, different diameters, or thicknesses, lengths. Just play around with it until you get what you want. Very, very cool. Another nice thing about this project is relatively simple. The triangle part is anyway, because it's just bend. And I ended up making 4 of them in this before I started making the strikers here. And they didn't all turn out the same, so that kind of ticks me off. I had one I had to bend 4 times before I got it where I wanted it to be. So very good practice and repetition, very good practice on isolating that heat. If your mark is here and your heat goes wide here and narrow here, that's going to bend over here on you, and things are going to be a mess. So a lot of good blacksmithing basics in that particular project. However, you'll see a project coming up pretty soon, assuming these things sell well, where I'll make a jig to heat the whole thing and bend it in one time. As long as I make the jig, I don't think I mind doing that. Anyway, for the striker, I decided to go with square. I found some 3/8 stock laying around. I'm going to go ahead and put a little ball on this end, nothing fancy. Draw out this a little bit of a taper just to give it, this is the striking end. We'll throw a twist on the handle, and then I'll put an eye on the end there so they can slide it over the triangle, or they can hang the striker. So that's what we're doing. We'll get this thing in the fire. We'll start off with this end, cutting the ball and drawing out a bit of a taper. Any reason not to upset this end a little bit, just a little anyway. Help that forming of the ball. And I'm not going to do it more than once, so I'll give it one try to give me something that wasn't very successful, but you get the idea. But a little bit of upset doesn't hurt, that's for sure. And then we'll go back for the actual heat. I have a lot of experience making balls, but we're going to go ahead and figure out the steel we want on the end and just kind of tenon that in a little bit, hopefully keeping it centered so that we have mass at the end there. Yeah, that's not bad. It looks like it, but it won't be when we're done. So again, I've taken about 5 times longer than I want here. But once we have a bit of a step to work with, we can go ahead, if you have a good anvil especially, and use the edge of the anvil to start bringing those points back and start rounding this ball off by hooking that step that you've created over. So again, I suck at this, there's no doubt about it. And believe it or not, I don't have tongs for this stock. It's time to make tongs. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that off a little more and then try to make that ball a little bit more presentable. Here now. Again, I'm just going to try to bring that taper back a little. just to give it a look of a taper, and then we'll work on that ball a little bit more. You don't really have to put a lot into it, you just need to give it some character, you know what I mean? We'll straighten her up a little and we'll soften it just a bit. You can go round, you can go whatever the hell you want there actually, but that's what we're going to do. Alright, get things where I want it. We're going to come back and see what we can do about putting that ball on. Clean that up a little. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to just keep working that ball back until we get it upset to the point. See, I don't have much of a step there. It's going to be a pain for me because I suck at it. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be perfect. But try to work that back off the edge of your anvil if you even have an edge. Like I don't. So you get what you want there, and that's going to be as good as that one gets. We got some learning to do on that for sure. That's where they make grinders, right? Throw that twist in the handle that I want. I think this is plenty long enough. I think I could have gone a little shorter. Actually, I'll drop that a little bit. I like that better. I'll just throw a twist in here just to decorate it up. Try to keep her straight. Full twist or something like that. Line her back up. Looks good. And then we'll take, like I said before, I'll go ahead and draw this out and we'll put an eye on the end. I'm just going to grab a little bit here to stretch out whatever I think I need to make that eye. Doesn't have to be tricky, just functional. I'll just draw that out a little bit. I don't really need a taper, I just need it drawn out. You can be round, you can be square, you can be whatever you want. Centered would be nice. Square it back up. Now that I got a twist out of it. You don't need much of an eye, just need it to be there. 1 inch eye would be 3 inch, right? So we got 1/2 inch stock. You need more than 1.5 inches, especially with that square stuff. This will be the last of it. Just want a little more length on this. Even it up a little. For some reason I got it in my head I'm going to a taper and I don't really need to do that. A little thicker back here than we need to be. We're not as square as I'd like to be. That's all she wrote. We're going to give her some heat and then we'll wrap that eye and we'll be done. This eye, the first thing we want to do is step it out in the wrong direction and then work it in the right direction. That step in the wrong direction will help you center the eye when you bring it around. And again, I just want to make it so that we can hook it without it falling off in the wind. So it doesn't have to be closed, but it's got to be smaller than that that 1/2 inch stuff. So there it is. Not too snabby right there. We'll wax that up and we'll be good to go. Alright, when I showed you waxing last time, that piece wasn't quite hot enough. I just want to show you what you get when you have a piece that's too hot. Well, maybe I'm not. There it is. Yeah, that burst of flame. Actually, this one is just about the right temperature to give you a nice black coating. If you hit it and it bursts immediately, you're too hot. It's just going to burn it off. It's not going to get a chance to cook in. But if you get a little bit of time before it bursts, or just see all that smoke, that's what you're after. And you just kind of coat it a few times. Once you do this a few times, you'll get the idea of what kind of smoke you're looking for. See, up here, let me see if I can show you. Up here is still a little too hot because I hit it and it's not coating. See, down here we already are turning black. Even though it burst into flames, we're already getting the color that we want. So I need to wait until this one lets that wax flow before it bursts into flames. It's kind of awkward to hold, but since this is done down here, you know, the trick is to know when to do it. And see, it's still too hot. It's not coating yet. So I'll sit there and I'll wave the thing around, do whatever you got to do to cool it down. The key is not to get it too hot in the first place, but like I showed you with the last one, that one wasn't quite hot enough to get a good burn in. So almost there. There we go. Now we're starting to look a lot better. Practice. It's all it comes with experience. But you want that wax to flow and then cook like that right there. That's perfect. Alright, see the difference now? We're getting a coating, we're not flaring anymore, and things look really, really good. Alright, let me cool her down and we'll give her a ring and see what she sounds like. Alright, we got her all done. I just put a little leather lanyard on the thing. I got a little wax here to clean up. But again, it's by using the 3 different links, you end up with 3 different tones. So when you're ringing, the first one I made, it's not here, was 3 of the same size, and it was just, it wasn't good. Alright, slides up there to store, or if you wanted to, you could tie that onto a lanyard and hook it someplace else. But there you have it. Nice project because repetition, right? It's easy to make, but you got to make them right in order to make them sound well. And a lot of different blacksmithing techniques. Take care, catch you on the next one.